Ted Bundy, the killer who looked too normal. If you were asked to picture a serial killer, chances are you wouldn't picture Ted Bundy. He was well-spoken, intelligent, charismatic, the kind of man who volunteered for political campaigns, studied law, and smiled in courtrooms. He didn't lurk in alleys. He didn't hide in the shadows. He introduced himself politely and asked for help. This is the story of a man who weaponized charm, turned trust into a trap, and proved that sometimes the most dangerous people are the ones who seem the most normal. Ted Bundy was born in 1946. From the start, his life was built on a lie. He grew up believing his mother was his sister and his grandparents were his parents. When he eventually learned the truth, something fractured. Friends later described Ted as intelligent but distant, charming yet strangely empty. He struggled with relationships, identity, and rejection. On the outside, he looked like a rising star. On the inside, resentment was quietly growing. Ted Bundy understood something early on. People trust what feels familiar. He dressed well, spoke politely, made people feel comfortable. He even volunteered at a suicide hotline, listening to people at their lowest moments. The man comforting strangers on the phone was learning how to manipulate emotions in real life. Ted wasn't physically intimidating, so he borrowed sympathy instead. Ted Bundy often approached young women pretending to be injured or helpless. A cast on his arm, a limp, a polite smile. "Can you help me?" Most people would, and that's what made it work. Ted Bundy's crimes followed a disturbing pattern, one built on manipulation, not force. He often presented himself as injured or helpless. He'd ask for help carrying books or loading something into his car. And people helped, because that's what decent people do. Once he gained trust, Bundy relied on surprise and control. He targeted college campuses and public places, areas that felt safe. His approach was calculated, calm, and deliberate. Bundy didn't rush. He planned. What made him especially dangerous wasn't brutality, it was patience. While murders went unsolved, Ted Bundy continued living an ordinary life. He attended law school, dated, socialized. In public, he debated legal theory. In private, he was escalating. Friends noticed mood swings, sudden disappearances, but nothing that screamed serial killer. Because Ted Bundy didn't look like one. Eventually, suspicion caught up to him. Ted Bundy was arrested, and then he escaped. Not once, twice. He jumped out a courthouse window. Later, he slipped through a jail ceiling. For a man accused of horrific crimes, he was treated like he was too smart to be dangerous. That assumption would cost lives. When Ted Bundy was finally captured again, he made the courtroom his stage. He represented himself, smiled at cameras, gave interviews. When cameras were placed in front of Ted Bundy, something strange happened. He didn't look nervous. He didn't look ashamed. Instead, he appeared curious. Bundy often spoke in the third person, distancing himself from the crimes. He analyzed people like him as if he were an outside observer. It was a performance, calm voice, controlled expressions, careful wording. He wanted to be seen as intelligent, misunderstood, even helpful. As the trials progressed, the mask began to slip. The confidence turned frantic. The charm became desperation. Bundy delayed, appealed, and confessed, not out of remorse, but to prolong his relevance. Even at the end, he spoke more about himself than his victims. In the end, the charm failed. Evidence mounted, witnesses spoke. Ted Bundy was convicted and sentenced to death. Even then, he continued talking, analyzing himself, explaining himself, trying to control the narrative. Ted Bundy didn't scare people because he looked dangerous. He scared people because he looked safe.